Hi guys, welcome back to Game Muscle Videos. Today we're going to be checking out the Praga R1 in Assetto Corsa. And on the screen you see we've loaded up the Praga website, which claims that the R1 is a lightweight, extreme downforce, full carbon, high safety, low running cost vehicle. Weighing 592 kilograms, providing 340 bhp with an engine service interval of 75 hours. Now, I'm not quite sure how low the running costs are. Of course, this is all going to be relative. It's probably low running costs compared to other track day race cars, but compared to what most of us can afford, it's still going to be bloody expensive, let's face it. But look at the car. It looks absolutely gorgeous, and you know, they are doing a good job of selling it. There's Sebastian Loeb, David Coulthard, they've all got in on it. They've all been paid off to celebrate how good this car is. We're going to jump in though and give it a go with the Vive in Assetto Corsa, because we can't afford the real thing. So we've got AC set up. One thing to worth noting before we jump into the car, I've started driving again with on the controls with the force feedback. I've started putting I started driving again with the enhanced understeer effect on. For some reason, it seems to not be as bad as it used to be. It used to cut off the force feedback almost completely when you lost grip. Now it doesn't seem so aggressive. I'm not sure if that's just because I'm crazy and I didn't notice it before, but it seems pretty good now. So we've been driving with enhanced understeer effect on, which gives you a little bit more feel in certain cases as to what the front end of the car's doing. So what we're going to do though to test this vehicle out is we've got the tiny little version of Brands Hatch. We've got the car set up. We've got the opponents here. We'll put 15 of them on. Don't want to melt the computer. And we've got the difficulty on 100%, of course. No assists. Don't want any of that business. Okay, so we've got it set up. So we're starting pretty much at the back of the grid. On with the VR headset. Move the cable around. Get comfortable. Plug the earpieces in. You know the routine. The one major disadvantage with VR is, of course, that you have to stick something on your face. But that's the price you have to pay for ultimate immersion, unless you're ridiculously rich and or have a lot of space and a partner that's not going to murder you for having a room with a sort of mental triple screen setup or projector setup. But there we go. We're now in the vehicle, and I'm going to have to remind myself not to shout too loud. Earbuds have that effect of making you feel as if you're not talking loud, but actually you are. So let's look at the car first before we get going. Let's make sure everything's going on the recording side. Yes, we are. We're all good. So looking at the internals of the car, that's pretty nice. I mean, it's a very tight cockpit. Definitely has that sort of Le Mans prototype feel to it. We're sat pretty much in the middle. We're a little bit to the left of the car. There's a bit of space on the right. You couldn't really fit two people in here, but visually, absolutely stunning cockpit, and I do really like the shape of this vehicle. So I'll give it a pass. We've got an engine cut off. I can only guess that is there, just to extinguish any fire that happens once you inevitably drive into the car in front at the start of the race. But visually, absolutely stunning vehicle. Nice little Formula 1 style steering wheel. Let's get the keyboard on the floor. And let's get going. Now I'm going to center the camera as well just before the race starts. So there we go. All set up and ready. Well, we don't want the render statistics in the middle of the screen. Goodbye. And off we go. So everyone always asks, what is the app on the right showing us the driver positions? That's Heli Corsa, and it's really useful for giving you sort of additional awareness of where people are. VR, you don't necessarily need it that much, but whoa, locking the wheels up here. But every little helps, as they say, and I'll take all the aids we can get, because we're not exactly the most talented of race drivers. So at the moment, the car feels really nice and progressive. It's completely planted. As I said in the previous video where we drove this before, I don't think it's the most exciting of vehicles to drive. at a basic level, because it is so planted and it's not particularly high speed. It's very clearly being designed more so, I'd say, for sort of customer drivers, your sort of GT3 style drivers. I think, well, more than your sort of hardcore extreme, I want my trousers to be ripped off type driver. I think for them a Radical is probably gonna tickle the pickle a bit more. But it's very easy going, and I think the nicest thing with this car is just the seating position and just how you are in the cockpit. It's just really nice little view you get. As I say, very similar to what you typically find in the sort of prototype vehicles. Now, it's a little bit weird how in VR, I'm not sure this is the case on a 2D monitor, but in VR, because you can sort of peer over the bonnet, or even when you're sort of sat in a racing position, you can just see the wheels through the wheel arches. But because of the shape of the wheel arches, they look quite flimsy. But I guess they've put the hole there to let you see the wheels, and you can see with this car, I think the design has been such that they want to give drivers a Formula type experience, but with a car that's going to last a bit longer, not have the same wear as a Formula car, and a little bit more durability to it, reducing the cost, as it says on the website. Though, like I say, it's probably still going to be, you're talking £100+ a lap on top of the actual cost of the vehicle. So it's never going to be cheap. Just noticed on the top there, we've got a whole bunch of toggle buttons. That's another dash idea for Derek Spears. He's going to have to get his there's a sort of top dash. That's the fuel injection, ignition button. We've got the power buttons. It's all the on-off switches for the car, and then we've got the master switch on the top right there. Of course, you're probably not meant to be nosy in the buttons in the cockpit and equating yourself with the vehicle the first time you jump in it, and as a result, the AI are pulling away. Now, I've just realised we've only set this to a 3-lap race, which is pathetic, really. It's not enough laps to get a good idea of a vehicle. But it's an introduction. Now, it does, although, as I say, it is pretty much completely planted to the road. You do have to watch out. If you lock the wheels, it will go in a straight line, and it does, having driven this on the Nürburgring GP track, the car does have a habit of, if you click the curbs, it can get into a sort of very dull passenger slide that can take quite a while to come out of. So it's one of those vehicles that lures you into a sense of security, and then out of the blue, you can be a passenger. Downshifting as well, if you downshift too aggressively, you can induce that situation. But if you've set your force feedback up correctly and you drive nice and smooth with the accelerator and the brake, that really shouldn't be an issue, and you won't have any problems driving it. And for the most part, the force feedback gives you a good deal of warning as to if you're getting yourself into that situation. Okay, so going to the Nürburgring GP, I'm just going to make sure that all the assists are turned off in terms of the actual vehicle assists. So traction control's off there, and we don't have any ABS in this vehicle or any other settings, and it's actually quite surprising that the car does only have one level of traction control. You would expect for this type of customer car, rich man turn up and pretend to be a Formula driver car, you would expect for it to have more traction control settings, but it doesn't. And even with traction control on 1, it's not that aggressive. Like, if you go driving some of the GT3 cars, you put them on even sort of 2 or 3, and you can immediately hear the engine cutting out and the car working really hard to keep the back in. I think maybe the reason why this car doesn't have that many traction control settings is because, as I say, it is a very planted and stable car as it is, even with the traction control completely off. And I have noticed that even when you set the brake bias further forwards, it still remains very stable. The car doesn't really have enough engine power behind it with the amount of grip it's got to actually pop the back out, particularly on the throttle. It is very much glued to the road, other than if you're very aggressive on the brakes, or when it comes to some of the tighter downhill off camber corners. You'll notice that the car can struggle for grip a little bit in those situations, but in most operation on most circuits and most corners, it is a very planted car. We'll try and move the brake bias. I'm moving it the wrong way here. I'm moving it backwards. You'll find if you move the brake bias, sorry, I'm moving it forwards. If you move the brake bias forwards, you'll find that of course the car will just go. It will just go in a straight line, and yeah, it will just lock up in a straight line, and you won't be able to get it to turn in at all. So you really are better off with it quite far backwards. So you at least you can play with the vehicle dynamics a bit on the brakes. Not much to be gotten from the accelerator, but there's a little bit of fun on the brakes. I think getting into some of the corners and then balancing the car through them. And I definitely think using the enhanced understeer effect with this vehicle does help you balance that, because you really need to be aware of how much grip you've got on the fronts. Otherwise, you know, you'll turn your steering wheel and nothing will happen, and you'll sort of be clueless as to why nothing's happening. But with the enhanced understeer effect on with this car, it actually communicates to you why nothing's happening. And nothing's happening often with this car because you're understeering, you've gone in a bit too hot. But really, the Praga R1, as I say, I think it's, for me, it's a little bit of a bland vehicle. I'd sort of say it's a sort of a sponge cake without any filling, and it's not even got a cup of tea to go with it. As far as cars go, it's really not my favourite car in Assetto corsa. I'd probably say it's not necessarily the worst car in AC, but it's not, you know, it doesn't tickle my pickle. It's not really exciting me. I've not driven this on. I've done a couple of races online. I've not ever felt, oh, that was really exciting. Everything just happens at its own pace. It's sort of like it's the grandma in a Zimmer frame walking to the flower shop to buy some new plants for the garden type of car. I'm sure maybe in real life, you know, you'd have the excitement of the G-forces and the potential of crashing into other rich people, which would probably justify the car. And then, as we saw at the beginning, if you look at the car specs, the real-world car obviously gives you that high-spec track day experience in a package that's gonna last and be relatively, comparatively speaking, cheap. Oh, but there you go. There is that one aspect. Let's try and get in here. Beep beep. There is that one aspect to it. If you do clip the curbing, it is entirely possible to just get stuck in a spin. In fact, very easily. So that's the one aspect of this car that's quite punishing, is how it can lose control when you hit curbing on low speed tight corners. But that pretty much gives you an introduction to the Praga R1. What I would say is it's definitely going to be worth trying this out with some other setups and seeing how they affect things. If we can get the back end out a bit more, that's probably going to be detrimental to lap time, clearly. And normally the sort of default sets that you get are not necessarily the fastest setups, but they're normally set up in a way that's balanced and fairly neutral. But in terms of enjoyment, I quite like it to have the bike come out on the throttle. It probably just, you know, based off the amount of grip it's got, that's probably just not going to happen. But coming around the outside there, the cockpit almost makes up for it, especially with its little dainty windscreen wiper that you've got there. Unfortunately, AC doesn't have weather. That would be incredible if AC had full-on weather effects and full day night rather than just daytime. Maybe that'll be in AC too. But just notice, looking over, you can actually peer into the wheels. This is of course how everybody drives this car, with their face on top of the steering wheel. You can actually peer into the wheels and see the way the wheels attached to the car body. sort of the inside of the brake disc, is pretty cool. You almost get the experience of what you get from a proper Formula car, but not quite. Oh, I keep missing that corner. It's the I think that's the, I'm not sure which chicane that is. The NGK chicane I think is the faster one. For some reason we've accidentally put the slower one on. But I'm going to finish this there. An introduction to the Praga R1, part of Kunos' triple pack. Fantastic interior, a little bit dull to drive. Maybe after a few beers it'd be a bit more exciting. But there you go. Thanks for watching this, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it's excited you. I definitely think the triple pack is worth checking out. And as I said earlier in the video, definitely have a go at clicking on the enhanced understeer effect and just seeing what your mileage is. It might be the case that some cars are good with it and some cars aren't. But I've found since the recent patch, or when I've tried the enhanced understeer effect recently, it's actually been quite beneficial to communicating what some of the cars are doing in certain situations where otherwise you might not get that communication from your force feedback. So until the next video, please click the subscribe button, like us, ask any questions in the chat. We're going to check out the other cars in the recent triple pack DLC. But until then, thanks for watching and goodbye. First built in 1969 and then upgraded with its trademark alien grip strips 30 years later in 1999, the Paul Ricard track has become one of the most popular test venues, host to multiple Formula 1 Grand Prix and more recently the European Le Mans Series.